Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at the lovely deck with which Magnus Pedersen just won the Pokemon Trading Card Game Championships in the Senior Division. A deck which was a little bit unusual and not exactly what we expected to see, but a deck that was very, very fun indeed. And the reason it was a bit weird and a bit different and a bit exciting was because it involved Banette GX, a card which a lot of people were hyping going into the World Championships. Coming out of Celestial Storm, it was one of those cards people were going, oh man, this is great. But it was one of those cards that nobody really seemed to know exactly how to use. People were saying, oh, just play it with Zoroark. It'll be great if you play it with Zoroark. But then Banette Zoroark just did not see much play this weekend. Really didn't see very much success at all. Turns out, Magnus had the answer. So let's look at Banette just for a moment here. The ability is absolutely brilliant. It allows you once during your turn to move a damage counter from one Pokemon to another Pokemon. And that could be from one of yours to another one of yours to save a KO, from one of your opponents to another one of your opponents to get a KO, or most of the time, from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponents. And there was an amazing combination that you could use here with Shrine of Punishment. Shrine of Punishment really was one of the stars of the weekend, this stadium card that put one damage counter on each Pokemon EX and GX between turns. Interestingly enough, Magnus didn't actually play any of them, he just went Parallel City. But a bunch of decks did, and this was pretty much, in most games at least, the only GX he'd have on the field. So he could actually evolve up into Banette, and then Banette would take a damage counter, and then the next turn could move it to your opponent. And if you had two, they would take two, and then the next turn could move them to your opponent. Combined with Shrine of Punishment, this was fun. The GX attack let you take free cards from your discard pile back into your hand, let you reuse resources like Rainbow Energy, for instance, which will be hard to recover otherwise, or get Guzma back, or to be honest, whatever you want. Used in the late game, you could just guarantee you got the cards you needed to win. And then the main attack here, for one Psychic Energy, did 30 damage, 10 more for each supporter card in the discard, up to a maximum of 10. Well, you're hitting weakness against Buzzwole here. Buzzwole was everywhere. And this really did not take much to get a one-hit KO on a Buzzwole. Time you add a Choice Band in, you need 4 supporters in the discard to get a KO on Buzzwole. Not the most difficult thing ever. Plus, you got a resistance to it. So you've got a really great ability and attack which counters Buzzwole pretty much on its own, while also just being a nice, efficient attacker. This is starting to sound pretty good to me. What other Pokemon did we see? Well, there's Garbodor. And we've talked about Garbodor. We talked about it when we looked at Jeff's list, with which he came second at the World Championships. Or if I haven't uploaded that video yet, we will very shortly. We've seen Garbodor many times. You've got Garbotoxin Garbodor, which blocks abilities from your opponent's Pokemon, and that means Zoroark doesn't get any trade. It means Malamar doesn't accelerate energy. It means that Oranguru and Octillery don't draw extra cards. We're in a format at the moment where turning off abilities is great, and that's before you even mention Tapu Lele here. It's really useful. And then you've got the Trashalanche Garbodor, which does 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. So essentially here, if they ever use too many items, you can smash them with this. Banette is quite a good early game attacker, just chip away, single energy, resistance to fighting, fairly high HP, just sit there and chip away, waiting for your opponent to play too many items, and then in comes Garbodor. Now, we did see a couple other Pokemon here. We did see a Drampa. Now, this was not a Pokemon that saw much play this weekend at all, but Drampa's really nice. Drampa, first of all, Riotous Edge, 20 damage, and discard a special energy, really good against stuff like Zoroark in the early game, just trying to run him out of energy. You've got Big Wheel GX that gets you a new hand of 10 cards, really nice for consistency. But you've got Berserk that does 150 if one of your bench Pokemon has a damage counter on. And then you had a Choice Band, you're up to 180 and stuff like Rayquaza and Tapu Lele go down. The thing is, you got Banette. So as long as one Pokemon somewhere on the field has a damage counter on, you can use Banette to move it over to one of yours, and then you've got the damage. It makes Berserk really, really consistent in terms of getting the extra damage. Although at this point I really do need to stress, Banette does need to be in the active in order to move that damage counter. But, you know, you got stuff like Floatstone, you'll be fine. You'll get him in and out the active if you need to. Really kind of fun. We see a promo Jirachi. This was really in vogue a little while ago and pretty much entirely went away. It discards a special energy and then gets immunity the following turn. Great against stuff like Zoroark with its double colourless energy, or maybe Buzzwole with its strong energy. It's a really, really nice little card that can buy you turns to get yourself set up. I'm a big fan. It really did drop off the radar for a very long time. I'm glad to see it back in a World's winning deck. Then we saw a couple of other slightly weird choices. We saw Buzzwole. Buzzwole doesn't fit into what is otherwise an entirely psychic deck. It doesn't seem to make a huge amount of sense. Except it hits weakness on Zoroark, and like I've just told you how we've got a couple of Pokemon which are good at discarding special energy and disrupting Zoroark, but we still need to actually KO Zoroark. That's where Buzzwole comes in. If your opponent has 4 prizes remaining, you whack a Rainbow Energy on here, and we do play Rainbow Energy, and you get a one-hit KO on a Zoroark. That, ladies and gentlemen, is brilliant, and that's basically why you play it. To be fair, in the early game, it just gets a one-hit KO on a Zorua, because you do 30 with weakness, they've got 60, you get a one-hit KO. It's fine for chipping away damage in the early game, and maybe you can get swing around going, although most of the time you won't be able to. But Sledgehammer's great for taking out pre-evolutions, and it's wonderful against Zoroark. It should get you one KO at one point during the game. And given that Banette is weak to Zoroark, that's something you need to focus on. And then we saw one copy of Wobbuffet, which again does not seem like it fits in this deck really. So why is it in there? Well, the ability says when it's active, only psychic Pokemon have abilities, so it can be great for slowing down a lot of decks, though not Malamar, which will still be able to accelerate energy. But also the attack does 10 damage, plus 10 for each damage counter on the defending Pokemon. It is great for finishing off KOs. If you've done a bunch of damage with Banette, in comes Wobbuffet to finish them off. If you've been able to chip away a bit with Buzzwole, in comes Wobbuffet to finish them off. It really is quite a fun little card. And then obviously we see Tapu Lele, which goes and gets your supporter cards and all of that. It's Wonder Tag, it's been used in every deck. It feels like since the beginning of time, but in reality it's just since it became legal. In terms of energy cards, we see Basic Psychic, because most of your attackers, your Garbodor, your Banette, they work on Psychic energy. But we also see 4 Rainbow Energy here. And really, Rainbow Energy is only played for Buzzwole here. All the rest of your Pokemon are attacking for Psychic or Colourless Energy, and you're only playing one Buzzwole. So you're essentially playing 4 Rainbow Energy just so you can play one Buzzwole. Yeah. It still counts as Psychic Energy. You can still use it on Banette, you can still use it on Garbodor. Does make you a little bit more vulnerable to stuff like Enhanced Hammer, but that's a risk you've got to take. But it means that you've got 4 copies of the card, so you're more likely to draw it when you want to attack with Buzzwole. And then 3 double colourless energy, and maybe it's in there for Drampa. And largely it is in there for Drampa. But you can actually use it to use Acid Spray with Garbodor, which is not the worst use ever. And you can use Tapu Lele's Energy Drive here. And against stuff like Zygarde that you're not hitting for weakness, Tapu Lele is a really good, efficient attacker. They get 4 energy on, you hit 120 for a double colourless energy. That seems alright by me. It seems like a weird energy line, given that most of your main attackers just need basic psychic, but this energy line gives you options. And then in terms of the trainer cards, I mean, you've got N, you've got Professor Sycamore, you've got Cynthia. These are the 3 best draw cards in the format, so pretty much every single deck is going to have some combination of them to help you get set up. Obviously, you've got Guzma to drag Pokemon up off the bench and get KOs, and obviously you've got Bridget so you can Wonder Tag for it turn 1, grab yourself 3 basics and get yourself set up. Obviously, you've got Ultra Ball to search out your Pokemon. It's the best Pokemon search we've got. And Floatstone, which gives all of your Pokemon free retreat, so your Pokemon do not get stuck in the active. Of course, we've got Choice Band to do an extra 30 damage to EXs and GXs. And Field Blower is very important for getting rid of tools on Garbodor, yours or your opponent's to turn on abilities, but also getting rid of stuff like Choice Band and Floatstone. But we see a couple of Parallel City here. This is the stadium card of choice. We did see over the weekend some people were playing Shrine of Punishment with Banette, so they could spread damage and then use the stadium to move damage from yours to your opponent's Pokemon. That would be cool. It was in such big numbers you didn't really need to. Banette was a good counter for Shrine of Punishment, but Magnus would rather have Parallel City, limiting your opponent's bench to 3. Really good in so many matchups. We do see 1 copy of Mysterious Treasure here. This is really in addition to Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball gets you all of your Pokemon, this gets you all your Psychic ones. It's not as good as Ultra Ball, but having 1 as an extra search is good. And then of course there's a Rescue Stretcher to recover your Pokemon. Quite possibly Buzzwole. It looks like an awkward deck list when you first look at it. Lots of one-off Pokemon, a weird energy line, but I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, it took Magnus Pedersen all the way to the World Championships in the senior division, so given that context, I think it's fair to say this deck list is awesome. And huge congratulations to Magnus Pedersen. I was lucky enough to be able to meet him in Australia and cast his finals game there, and he's a lovely chap. And I was delighted to see him win. Congratulations to him. Plus, I'm a Denmark fan, and Danish world champion always makes me happy. But you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. It's over to you now. Tell me what you think about this deck. Tell me how much you're buying it. Go nuts in the comment section, but do remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.